All right, welcome in, everybody. It's Friday. It's time for Full Court Press. Our guy, Rob Vino, is going to be in the sky in a minute. He's flying to Vegas today. As you know, from the East Coast, that's like an all-day long flight, all-day thing. But we've got Matt Winnick with us. If you've been with us since the beginning of the year, you remember Matt a couple of times from Thanksgiving week, Feast week. We had him in twice. So, Matt, welcome back. And for the new people that we've dragged in along the way, introduce yourself and let them know where they can find your stuff.
Yep, Matthew Winnick at Matthew Winnick on Twitter. A lot of content on Basket Under Review, and then everything else. All my other ramblings will just be on my Twitter page. College basketball is my 365-day-a-year job, so it's college hoops every day.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the Basket Under Review site. I've been friends with the Three Man Weave guys for a decade now, I think, at this point, and to get everyone in the same place essentially was a genius idea. It is, I don't know if you don't go there for like your home base for college basketball coverage. I think you're doing yourself a disservice. So truly incredible. This was the first year it was Basket Under Review in kind of this format. And it's been outstanding. And there's still a lot of games to play, Matt. We're it's almost over, but it's like just starting in a sense, right? Like we still have NIT games this weekend, a slew of games the next 3 days. And, I always start the show with a feature game. But yesterday I said to Rob, there's no feature. They're all big. Every game is like the same magnitude. One tournament game is not bigger than the other. So I'm going to start. We started talking off air, and we're going to start with a little 2-for-1. I want to talk both 1 seeds against the both 1-16 matchups today. So you've got Florida playing Prairie View, Arizona playing Long Island. Yes, this was my way to incorporate Siena University now into the show one more time. It was a heartbreaker for me, even though I had a nice win at plus 29.5. Everyone in the country was a Siena fan for a minute yesterday, at least for a little bit. But the reason I bring that up is because I think, listen, if you've really followed some of these smaller teams this year, Howard, Siena, I don't think it was crazy to think that Siena would sort of have a good showing in that game. I don't think anyone expected them to have a 13-point second half lead. Even Howard, at one point, Matt, they went to UNC Wilmington, Trask Coliseum, and won on the road. So to think that they could cover 30 against Michigan, not crazy. I guess what I'm trying to set up here is the 2-16 seeds today, I just don't know have the same juice as yesterday's. I'm going to look at Florida. I'm going to look at Arizona. Do you think both big favorites smash in the 1-16s today?
I do, but I think they're going to do it in different ways. For Florida, I just think that Prairie View A&M is a really bad team. Like, they're winning a lot of games. Of course, it was the SWAC, and of course, it was Lehigh. And we've seen in recent years that SWAC teams kind of have an edge in these. Typically a SWAC team is going to play like a Northeast team, whether it's the America East or the Patriot or the NEC or whatever it might be. And they just have such an athleticism edge that they find a way to win those games. No athleticism edge against Florida. And Prairie View A&M's offense is basically just Dante Horton going ISO in the mid-range, and Florida will be like, cool, I'm good with that. I have Prairie View team total under in that game. It's 60-ish. Ken Pom has them at 61. I just think that Florida, I don't want to take the full game under because Florida might score 110 points, but I do not think Prairie View top 60. In the other game, LIU is going to run with Arizona. And as a mid-major big underdog, you don't want to run with Arizona. That seems like a disaster. LIU can't actually shoot the three, and Arizona defends the rim really well. I think that Arizona picks their number and could score 110 points on LIU because the game's going to be so fast.
Yeah, I kind of feel like both these teams could pick their number. I was at the Florida-Arkansas game a couple weeks ago down in Gainesville where they seemingly picked their number on an SEC team, and they did that a couple of times this year. So for me, if I had to look at the two, I guess I do have some respect for LIU and the way they've played up a couple of times in the last couple of years to some bigger opponents. But I'm with you in the respect that this was I'm sure LIU would have rather had Duke as well, right? Like something that like contrasted the style a little bit because, yeah, if you're going to get in a track meet for 40 minutes, or that's the way that you would want to play, you probably don't want to do it against Arizona. But Florida is the team where it's like, it's going to just come down to if they have any mercy or not. If they want to put up 110, 115 today, they'll do that. And that's the one I kind of look and say, okay, 30, we're at 35 and a half, hasn't really moved much. So it's not like you've had a scenario, it's not like a Michigan where, you the number came out and then it was bet 3-4 points in the other way. You could still easily take like 35 minus 115 at some of the more public books right now. That those do exist right now at a couple of the legals, is what I meant to say. And man, I kind of think Florida could have the 50-point win today. So if I had to choose one of those two, I think I'd lay it with the Gators.
For sure. And put it this way. Florida won by 26 points against Norfolk State last year in the first round as a 1 seed. Prairie View is 102 spots worse on KenPom than Norfolk State was during that game.
Yeah, and something I wanted to bring up before we move on, because Slick Vic here says, Siena was up 13 points and they were up 11 at halftime, yet they were still plus 11.5 on the live line. Yeah, so I saw this on Twitter, and this sounds right to me. I didn't check this, I didn't fact check this, but even with Siena having a 13-point lead in the second half, they were never an in-game favorite to win the game. So Duke was always still the in-play favorite, even going into the under 16 media timeout, still down double digits. They were always the in-play favorite to win the game. That shows you the difference, or the gulf in talent between the 1s and the 16s. But I think it's more pronounced today than maybe the books are even sort of saying. So listen, the 2 16 seeds, Siena and Howard, both covered the number yesterday. I think you could see a 1 seed sweep there today. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Arizona and Florida covered the number today.
I want you to guess. What do you think the lowest percent chance KenPom gave Duke at any point during that game yesterday?
Lowest percent chance, I think. So basically, what percent chance did Siena have to win? Like, what was the highest for them? Or could I look at the...
Either way, whatever we want to slice it. I can do the inverse math.
I would say Siena got as high as like a 15% chance to win the game.
Not bad, 24.2%. And that was when they were leading 61-56 with 8 minutes remaining.
Okay,
so it was on an 11-0 run, and it was done.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, and so then just to do a little comparison, like yesterday, you had Siena open 29.5, and Howard was up as high as like, I think 30 or 31. You're really only being asked to lay a couple more points in today's games, yet this just feels like such a bigger gap than those two. Maybe it's the benefit of hindsight, having seen them play, but I'll just go back to like Howard going into win at Wilmington, Siena sort of, playing the way that they were playing going into that game, and having a Gavin Doty and stuff like that. These 2 16s just seem so much weaker to me that I think you could take both 1 seeds.
I wouldn't say that LIU is in the territory of Howard and in the territory of Siena. It's just Arizona is such a bad matchup for a team that wants to run and has to get to the rim. Like, you got to be slow and shoot threes. I mean, think about when Tommy Lloyd last lost a first-round game against Princeton, and think about how different LIU is than Princeton. And that's just like, Princeton is the style of team that has a chance in a game like this, and LIU is just not. Not to mention, I don't think that Rod Strickland's anywhere near the coach that Mitch Henderson is.
Yeah, I had a big play on Princeton in that game, and then the next game that was 3 years ago. Best tournament of my life from a betting standpoint. I don't know if I'll ever recreate that. We can always try. I think I had hit 14 straight bets that tournament before losing a bet that I lost like an inexplicable loss to end the streak. So it's always how it goes. I had a good run last week that ended on Cal Baptist Utah Valley, which maybe we'll get to Cal Baptist at some point. But yeah, it always seems like when you're really on a big run, it's going to end on some crazy just game you probably should have won anyway.
Yeah.
All right, Garth, let's get Garth going here. He said rough 0-3 day yesterday. Yeah, we got to we're going to bounce back, Garth. He's had a great season. He's a regular contributor to the chat. Appreciate the donation. He wants to go UCLA. They're taking on UCF. I guess the lead into this game, Matt, is the health of UCLA. I thought that they were playing great ball, and then they kind of I didn't even think they played poorly without a couple guys in the Big Ten tournament. I think they're probably at full strength today. I'd be shocked if they don't show up with everyone ready to go. It's the NCAA tournament. But I don't know. Have you heard anything different? And how are you seeing UCLA, UCF?
Yeah, Bilodeau is at least a question mark. Dent for sure is in. The thing with UCLA is they don't really have a true big. Xavier Booker at the 5 is a little undersized, under physicality wise. UCF is a very physical front court, and they're very big. JaMychal Stillwell and John Bull. I think UCLA wins this game. UCLA is the way more skilled team. They're the better coach team. But I can vividly remember watching. I was on Texas Tech going into UCF. I think this would be in January. And Texas Tech, just as a smaller team with smaller guards, really struggled with the interior size of UCF. And though I do think UCLA wins this game, I'm a little bit hesitant on the, multi-possession spread because I wonder how physical UCF is down low and what type of issues that gives UCLA, especially if Tyler Bilodeau is limited.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up the Texas Tech game. That was actually January 31st. It was definitely the high point of the season so far for UCF because after winning that game, they finished the regular season 3-6. They split in the Big 12 tournament, but I think more concerning, if you will, than the record there was the fact that Houston 24-point loss. Cincinnati, 24-point loss, got crushed. Gave up 111 to Oklahoma State, gave up 87 to Baylor, got blown out by West Virginia last game of the regular season, and then just got crushed by Arizona in the Big 12 tournament. So some very lopsided losses. I really felt like their defense started to go in that last month of the season. But it's always interesting going conference tournament, especially when you get eliminated early, to NCAA tournament because you get the week off. This will be 8 days since they last played. And I think something that I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want to quantify it because more of these teams play today. But man, the Big 12, best conference, I think, in college basketball this year, at least at the top. And those teams really beat up on each other. So do you give the Big 12 teams a little bit of a break when they maybe had a rough February, now that they're nearing the end of the gauntlet, they're exhausted, and now they get 8 days to sort of regroup and, kind of reset? Does that make you like UCF more because of that?
Maybe. The Big Ten, I guess they had Wisconsin. The SEC also did very well. Georgia obviously laid a stinker, but everyone else won, at least so far. I guess at the end of the day, maybe, especially because UCF was a little banged up down the stretch, as everyone was. John Bull got hurt in their loss in the Big 12 tournament, but he should be fine. I just think about how physical the Big 12 is, how many teams trap ball screens and how many teams rebound really well. And maybe that actually adds value to UCF because they endured that. And yeah, they struggled down the stretch, but it's they did play a lot of, really physical big teams, and they were very good in the non-con. So again, I think UCLA wins, but as someone who I think UCLA is awesome, and I think they're underrated. I am a little worried about the size in this matchup.
Yeah, you could look at it if you're looking at it from the UCLA side, prior to kind of getting some tough injury luck going into the Purdue game, they looked as good as they've looked all season, beating Michigan State. I think a full strength UCLA has a very good chance to beat Purdue in that game. Already beat them once during the regular season, and down the stretch, if you'll forgive the hiccup at the Barn, which is fine. That's a tough place to play, and that was kind of a one-off road game for them going up to Minnesota on a one-off. They have been as impressive as anyone since mid-February.
Not to be a Mick Cronin apologist, but I think in a way, and I kind of took this lesson last year when I picked Utah State to beat UCLA in the round of 64 last year, and it wasn't even close. In a way, new Big Ten teams or in any of these conferences, West Coast teams that have to go back and forth coast to coast every other week, are underrated because if you look at all of UCLA's worst results, double-digit loss at Ohio State, double-digit loss at Michigan State, loss at Minnesota, like you mentioned, at Wisconsin, at Iowa State. Their only home loss in league play was a double overtime 1-point loss to Indiana. They were very good in the Big Ten tournament. They were pretty good in the non-con, almost beat Arizona, competed with Gonzaga, and then they were awesome at home. So in a way, these teams that have to go back and forth every other week are probably a little underrated, at least in power rankings at this time of year.
Yeah, and the other thing is, too, it's like travel for the NCAA tournament is not the same as travel during the regular season. Like, everyone is getting in a plane and going somewhere. You're showing up multiple days early. Everyone's running through the same practice, media session. It's all the same thing. So it's like there are travel spots that are tough. Like, I remember, because I have friends that went to Seton Hall. I remember Seton Hall got sent out like after they got sent way out west, and it was like a logistical nightmare, and then they got smashed by like Gonzaga. Like there's always going to be like a couple like of outliers, but for the most part, I don't think travel is ever like a huge deal for NCAA tournament, because they get there.
I have a question for you then. Not to skip ahead or to go off of track, but I know that we don't really care on the show that much. As someone who picked Santa Clara today, are we worried that it's a 9:15 a.m. local tip for their body clock?
You know, that's a really interesting, like the body clock thing is very interesting in my opinion. We can go right to that game because the interesting thing about that game, Matt, is how many people are gravitating toward the Santa Clara side, kind of acting like Kentucky just doesn't have much of a chance. That's you. So you, who do you like here? Kentucky?
I like Santa Clara here. Okay. I mean, they have a chance, but
right. But I guess, you know, it just, you know what? I made this whole point the other day. This tournament is the one time a year where you can't worry if the public underdog is not a thing, because it's March Madness. The public is going to love almost every underdog. And I kind of made this point with South Florida. They were a super publicly backed dog yesterday. Now, I didn't know it would go the way it did, where they go down 20 and then have to like fight back. But I never put that stock. Like Miami of Ohio today is another one. I don't think you should worry about like the fact that everyone likes them, wants them to win, so on and so forth. But yeah, we can stay on this game. So I've always found west to east is tougher. I feel like you can do that in any sport, where it's like, go look at the NFL. West Coast teams struggle in that 1 p.m. kick all the time. It's just like every year, sometimes they stay on the East Coast because of it. So I know for me, I've lived in New York my entire life. Anytime I go out to the West Coast, coming back is always more difficult. So yeah, there could be something to the early tip and maybe the body clock's not being adjusted. But Santa Clara, unlike some of the other West Coast teams, I do believe Santa Clara's come east at least once. Didn't they win at Xavier earlier this year?
Yep. They killed Xavier. Killed them.
So sometimes, like, I don't know, I think it's maybe a little bit more difficult for the team that maybe never left California once all year and then has to come east. But even like year in and year out, I feel like Santa Clara will put some miles during non-conference play. Maybe that helps them a little bit.
I think it's less about the travel and it's more about the tip. Like the tip being at 9 in the morning. Like it's 10 in the morning. At 9 in the morning for me today, I could not have played a basketball game.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think the tip time definitely is, because listen, even if you're an East Coast team, I mean, you've seen some teams that are on the East Coast come out at the 12-15 tip in this tournament, and it's like they weren't there. I mean, there's always I'm just going off of memory. There's been teams that have gotten blown out in this spot where you have to wonder if having to tip off at 12:15 on a weekday messed with them a little bit. So yeah, I think it's something to take into consideration. But on to the game, you said you like Santa Clara. They've been a super impressive team to me this year. So like I understand why people think they have a really good chance here. Just talk to me about why you like the matchup for Santa Clara in this game.
Yeah, so Santa Clara is a team that's going to allow a lot at the rim. They're going to accept that you're going to score at the rim against them because they pressure the ball so much. They're going to force a lot of turnovers. They're going to take away your open 3-pointers, and they're going to run in transition and hope to take advantage of your bad misses. They've only lost one game all year when a team shoots below 59%, above 59% from 2-point range. So if you can't make 60% of your twos, you're not beating Santa Clara because that's their only weakness. Kentucky is not a very good 2-point offense. They finished 10th in the SEC in 2-point percentage. They've only topped 60% 4 times against a top 100 team this year. And they played, I don't know, like 25 top 100 games. So 4 out of those 25 have they topped 60%. They can do it here, but it's not like they have elite post presence. Otega Owe is a good downhill driver, but he's more of a mid-range scorer than at the rim. And the question is, can Kentucky be a dominant rim team against a Santa Clara team that's going to let you do that? And I just don't think this Kentucky team is that good. I ask anyone that talks to me about Kentucky this, and if you have a good answer for me, Adam, by all means, what is Kentucky really good at? No, I have no answer.
That's a really good question.
Like, they're not top 50 in anything.
I think they're really good at getting up for teams that are better than them, which doesn't really play here.
Sure. Yeah.
That's about all I can say.
They
get up for like the Floridas and like but now as in the role of the favorite, like they're not, like, it's hard to get up for you got, okay, so let's make the argument Kentucky's still got to play at 12-15 and they got to play Santa Clara. Are they going to be up for this game at 12-15 against a West Coast Conference team? I mean, it's the NCAA tournament.
I genuinely think Santa Clara has a better team than Kentucky today.
It's fair.
With Jaden Quaintance and with Jalen Lowe, like, maybe it's a different story. With the current rosters, I genuinely think Santa Clara is better. And I think that it's a good matchup because Kentucky won't be able to expose their rim defense. And that's exactly why Gonzaga was able to beat them so easily.
I will tell you this. I've struggled. Kentucky's one of the teams I've struggled with the most, trying to manipulate my number for them with the omission. So no Quintance, no Low. Like, I've had a really hard time because I oftentimes show value on Kentucky. And I feel like it's because I haven't made the correct adjustment. So I haven't bet many Kentucky games because of that. But just going off of like watching them play all year, I'd prefer them in the role like they were like against Florida, where they're a dog. They're kind of playing with house money. I don't really like them in the favorite role at all.
I don't like taking Kentucky games because when I'm like, a lot of my betting is matchup based and like, what are you really good at, and strengths versus strengths or weaknesses. And it's just Kentucky is so meh at everything. They're not particularly bad at much. They don't really rebound the ball that well, and they don't force a lot of turnovers. But I like taking Santa Clara games because it's like, oh, they're going to win the rebounding. Or, oh, they're going to win the turnover battle. Or, oh, they're going to make more 3-pointers. With Kentucky, it's kind of just like they put 5 guys on the court and then they just play basketball. Like they have no distinct style. They have no distinct advantage. They have no distinct strength. They just kind of play.
Yeah, I think those are fair points, and it'll be interesting. That's one of the ones where I flip-flopped on that one a couple of times. There was a point in time this week where I was like, oh, I'll definitely be on Santa Clara here. I started to talk myself into Kentucky. So typically when I do that, it's an easy pass, but that'll be one that I'm very interested to watch. So you want to talk about matchups and styles. Let's go to this game. Because I want to talk about this one. So Matt, remember, we do a parlay on this show. So I don't know if Rob, my co-host Rob Vino is I told him he can send in a parlay leg if he wants to. So if he does, it'll be a 3-teamer. If he doesn't, it'll just be you and I. We are chasing a couple of units on the year, but also it's March 20th. And the fact that we're even in striking distance is solid. So hopefully we can hit today. I want to talk about a game that I have an opinion on. I caught some of one of your shows earlier in this week, and I believe you were talking with Brian Ralph about this game, and I'm pretty sure you have an opinion on it as well. We may agree. So let's talk Miami of Ohio, Tennessee. Wager Talk clipped me from our Selection Sunday show special, where the pairings came out, and they asked me for a hot take. And my hot take was Miami of Ohio wins multiple games in the NCAA tournament. And I thought that was just going to die in the show because we did like a 2-hour show, but they clipped it and put it on TikTok. And so I had a bunch of people coming at me And I said, oh, this is either really good or really bad, right? We're either going to can you hear me still? Did my
I can
picture?
hear you, but you're good now. You're good.
That Central New York internet right there. Just I don't know. We have a pretty windy day here. I don't know why my internet would not be working. But anyway, coming back to this game, I was happy they clipped it, but I wasn't, because I was like, man, if SMU comes and just rolls them, I'm going to look really dumb on TikTok here. But anyway, I made the point that I said, Miami of Ohio, I think they can win multiple games in this tournament. And part of my reasoning for that was they just played a month and a half worth of games where they had the biggest target on their back, and they were hunted by everyone on a night in and night out basis. I went to the Ohio game, which was one of the best games I've ever had the privilege of being at. Miami of Ohio in Athens. And even with them favored in that game, it felt like they were kind of the underdog because we were in Athens, and it was 10,000 people cheering against them. And I'm just like, man, they love this. They love this role of being like the you're going to doubt us role. And now, Matt, they are in that role. They were in that role on Wednesday when they blew out SMU, and they're very much in that role today against Tennessee. So am I crazy to think Miami of Ohio can win this game despite the fact that they're now a double-digit underdog?
Yeah, so I did pick Miami, Ohio on my show with Brian on Sunday, or released on Monday. Unfortunately, I have come around and changed my mind.
Okay. Talk to me about why.
I'll actually probably be on Tennessee against the spread. And the reason why is Tennessee is the number one offensive rebounding team in the country. 45% of their misses they get back. Miami, Ohio, obviously the MAC is not a dominant offensive rebounding conference. In fact, I'll tell you right now, they were 21st out of 30 conferences in offensive rebounding percentage as a conference. They've played one really good offensive rebounding team, and that's UMass. And they've allowed Tennessee, I said 45% of their misses, right? They've only allowed 45% one time all year to anyone, and it was their loss. So when they allow Tennessee's offensive rebounding average or more, they're 0-1. And when they allow below Tennessee's offensive rebounding average, they are 32-0. So my question to myself was, can Miami allow Tennessee below their offensive rebounding average? And I just don't think they can. And so if Tennessee's going to grab 45 to 50% of their misses, can Miami's shooting and shot making be great enough against a Tennessee defense that is 20 times better than SMU without BJ Edwards? And I just don't think they can.
So I got it wasn't an argument, but I had, Miami of Ohio wins 89-79. Pretty convincing win for a 7-point dog against SMU. I had people coming in and saying, they just shot out of their minds. And I said, no, they didn't. I was like that. I said, if Miami of Ohio shot out of their minds against SMU, they would have won by 25. They would have won that game much bigger than they did. There was a stretch in the first half where I thought I was in trouble with Miami of Ohio +7 because they missed 9 shots in a row. And I said, okay, well, that can't happen against a team the caliber of SMU. But turned out no BJ Edwards. SMU just wasn't that good. I kind of had said that all year. And so, I'll acknowledge right now, no question, Tennessee is a much better team than SMU. But Tennessee, for me, so I don't know how much of this was the fact that I was at the Tennessee-Syracuse game earlier this year. Kind of saw Syracuse punch them in the mouth. And ever since that game, and this is where sometimes you going to games can be great because you get I think you get a unique perspective that's ultimately you can draw from maybe more, especially if you're able to get near the court and stuff like that. But sometimes it can work the other way where it's like it sticks in your head all for a long period of time because you saw the team up close. And I'll be honest, ever since that day, I was like, this Tennessee team is not the Tennessee team of the past couple of years, namely on the defensive end. I don't think this Tennessee team is as good defensively as they've been in past years. So I see where you're coming from with the rebounding aspect, but is there a world where Miami of Ohio just goes nuclear and they can't do anything about it?
So what Miami did against SMU, I think, was really, really smart is they just played 5 out the whole time. And like even Antoine Woolfolk, their 5-man who can't shoot and went 0 for 3 from 3, and I think at least 2 of those were air balls. Like it still was smart because it did everything they could to get Samet Yigitoglu out of the paint, not blocking shots, and having to defend on the perimeter. The problem is Samet Yigitoglu is one of the worst like on-ball perimeter defenders in the entire country. And the 5-man they're pulling out with Tennessee is Felix Okpara, who is absolutely good enough defensively on the perimeter to like handle switches, to handle playing on the perimeter. And I just don't think the 5-out strategy that Miami is going to have to employ here actually works as well against Tennessee because their bigs are way better outside defenders than SMU's were. They like Travis Steele, excellent coaching job. SMU is going to play 2 bigs, make everyone play on the perimeter. And Tennessee can do that way better, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth noting if if Gillespie or Men, or let's say both of them have very strong offensive showings in this game, Miami of Ohio would probably be in trouble if that's the case. I mean, when those two don't play well offensively, I think Tennessee can struggle a little bit. But then again, it probably Miami of Ohio might need some luck on the where the ball bounces when it comes off the rim for Tennessee, because that stat was the one that maybe where it's like Tennessee grabs like such a high percentage of their misses that if they're just getting like putback after putback, second chance points, easy buckets, you might need a big time shooting performance from Miami of Ohio. But hey, there's not many teams that could do it. I think they're one of the teams that could just shoot lights out for 40 minutes. So it'll be a fun one.
That's the thing about Tennessee as well, is when they play bad defenses, they win by a lot. Like Miami's 152nd in KenPom defense. The 3 teams above them that Tennessee's played, Auburn, Rutgers, LSU, they won those games by 8, 10, 25, and 10. And then those teams ranked below Miami in defensive rating, they won by 39, 29, 15, 25, 51, 42, and 33. So they can beat bad defenses. It's just when they play really good defense, when you only have 2 good players, it's not good enough. I'm sorry for saying all these things. I know you like Miami, and I hope you're right. It'll be a lot of fun. I just feel like the run ends here.
So first I just want to answer. So crazy sticks. What time does your picks drop today? I've already got 2 picks locked in. I haven't bet anything else. I have 2 plays locked in. One is my biggest bet of this round. It's a 5%. That's our max rating on the site. You can get that over on Wager Talk. Matt, you can give, this is another, we'll do the mid-show promo here. If you missed the beginning of the show, you can find all of his stuff on his own Twitter account. What's the Twitter handle again? I should have probably had it on the screen.
At my first name, last name, Matthew Winnick, right there.
So at first name, last name, right there on the screen. But also head on over to Basket Under Review, because Matt is part of a conglomerate of people on Basket Under Review, most of them, which you probably know, that put out phenomenal content. They've been doing it all season. And it is, even though there's only a couple weeks left, I mean, we still have Sweet 16. We still have the NIT, the second round of the NCAA tournament. The stuff on that website is so good that if you're betting this sport, I don't know how that's not your home base. I've said that since I had you on earlier this year. Jim Root came on and guest hosted the show. And I think you guys have done a phenomenal job, and I'll hype that up for you as long as you guys are as long as it exists. Also, the Discord is I need to be in the Discord more. There's a lot of good info in that Discord as well.
The off season is a good time to be in there, especially because we like to talk when there's not much going on.
And, we've got another 26 minutes on this show. Both of us will be giving out at least one best bet here on the show, and we'll lock it in for the parlay. I want to go back. So, okay. I think we can hit these two as a pair as well. If Miami, Ohio is not today's high point, who is it? Is it Cal Baptist or is it Northern Iowa? I haven't bet either of those yet, but in my head, one of those two could be the double-digit team, a double-digit underdog that wins outright today. So your pick, you can talk about both of them. You can pick what one you want to talk about. Is there a big upset like High Point on the card today?
I don't think there is one, but my most likely would be Northern Iowa. And that's just because, style, in my opinion, at least styles make fights. And Northern Iowa's style has the potential to sort of negate what St. John's wants to do, to make this game really slow, to keep them off the free throw line and off the offensive glass. Now, for that to work, they actually have to be able to keep them off the glass, and that just might not be possible. They do not have someone with the physicality of Zuby Ejiofor. Frankly, quite literally no one does. And St. John's is going to have to make shots here because Northern Iowa, forces a lot of shot making. I think St. John's, I don't love St. John's, but I think they're underrated as a shot making team. Osiah Sellers is a very good shot maker. Josan Sannon and Ian Jackson are inconsistent. But when they play well, they're very good shot makers. And if St. John's shoots 35% from three here, they'll win by 15. And so I don't really want to pick a game where it's like, oh, well, the underdog's only going to win if the favorite plays bad versus the underdog's going to win because they're a really good team to beat that squad. And I just don't think that's the case here.
So I've had I've been at like 3 St. John's games this year. Probably the team I've seen the most of any team that I've seen in person. And what you talk about their ability to make shots. To me, it's a direct, like when they play good defense and they're playing high pressure defense and they're forcing turnovers and the defense is playing well, it feels like that they hit shots off of that. Like, so for example, I'll go back to the UConn game at Madison Square Garden where like they made a lot of jumpers in that game, but it was also like, I felt like it was there was like almost like a direct correlation between them playing pressure defense and either getting a big rebound because they forced and missed or getting a turnover and then hitting the shot off of the turnover. So I guess that would worry me a little bit if I'm on Northern Iowa, because you got to ask yourself, has Northern Iowa played against a team that can pressure them like St. John's can pressure them here?
No, absolutely. It's the Missouri Valley. That no one plays like St. John's in the Missouri Valley.
Yeah, so that was just the, I'll give you, so the games I went and saw St. John's, I was at Carnesecca when they played DePaul, and that was a game where they were a big favorite, but they really didn't like pressure. Like they didn't probably play their best defensive game and they didn't cover. But like in the bigger games, the UConn game at the Garden, I also saw St. John's play Villanova in Philly. Those were 2 sort of big time, big games. And in both games, the defense directly fueled the offense. And then you had teams like Villanova wasn't really ready for that kind of ball pressure, and they struggled. And UConn figured it out, but we've now seen UConn twice could not be able to handle their relentless defensive pressure, and that's kind of my concern. As someone that did sort of saw the pairings and said, "Ooh, Northern Iowa is interesting right there," because they're a super veteran team. They're going to play a slower game. They weren't at full strength all year, so maybe like they're better than we think they are. But then I'm just like, if St. John's is at an 11 out of 10 on the defensive pressure meter, maybe they have trouble. So that's I've kind of maybe pumped the brakes a little bit on the Northern Iowa love.
So St. John's has played one other mid-major team whose strength is denying free throws and denying second chances. That was Harvard. St. John's still grabbed 47% of their misses, and that's the most Harvard's allowed all year by far. So obviously Northern Iowa is a bit better than Harvard, but it's the same concept of a team that is trying to keep you off the glass and keep you off the free throw line. Like you can have a strategy and a style and a way to play. Sometimes it just doesn't work because the opponent's too good at what they do. And I think that might be the case here.
All right, we're going to give a pick out right here. Rob Vino must be through security. He has texted me and he's given me his leg for the parlay. And so I definitely have an opinion on this game, definitely one of these teams, but we'll break down his play. So his play is going to be the over in Furman and UConn. He likes over 136.5. Talk to just, I'll give you the floor. Kick us off on this one. Furman, UConn, do you agree or disagree with points in this game?
This is a game I don't have a really strong opinion on just because I really like Furman, and I also think they don't have a chance here. The good news for Furman is they're not playing an extreme pressure defense, and they turn it over way too much. UConn's not going to pressure them all that much. The bad news here is Furman used their size their length and their interior finishing to win the SoCon. They hit threes, which they're going to have to do here, but they won because of the interior. UConn is a dominant rim defense, and I don't think Furman has any chance to score at the rim here. So the jumpers are going to have to fall, and they've been inconsistent from three all year.
So we had a couple shows leading into the selection show. We came on air early before the bracket was out, so I think we went on air about 5:45, and I really wanted Siena to draw UConn. I felt like Siena should have been a 15 seed, not a 16. I picked UConn as the team I would have wanted to play. I got a lot of heat from some UConn fans for that. I don't know if Siena played like they did yesterday. They might have beat this UConn team. Point is, I really don't like UConn at all. I'm only looking for ways to play against them. And yet here, I couldn't bring myself to take 20 with Furman because the SoCon was historically bad this year. I guess Furman, Rob and I had talked about Furman a couple different times in the context of like the SoCon tournament. And I know Rob really did sort of like Furman in that tournament. They ended up eventually winning it.
I picked them. I got that one right. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I mean, listen, think about how far Furman has come from the field of 68 opener when they couldn't even dribble the ball past half court against, I think it was High Point.
Yeah, well, they had a freshman point guard in his first ever game against the top 5 turnover defense in the country. But yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, they've cleaned up the turnovers for the most part, but if those issues are ever going to get exposed, it's probably going to be by a team like UConn where you're really stepping up in class. And I just don't know that Furman has the ability to step up in class. So even with all the UConn, even with me disliking them as much as I do, I couldn't find my way onto Furman plus 20.5 here.
I was very happy that I won Furman to win the SoCon. That was a lot of fun, and I'm really happy. At the same time, I can acknowledge they kind of got lucky because they shot 52, 45, and 39% from three in those games, and they're not a great three-point shooting team. They're going to have to be 45% to have a chance to win here, and I think they probably need to hit 40 for this over to hit. Which they absolutely do.
So do you think do you think this is like Danny Hurley wants to run it up because he's a little pissed about how last weekend went? Is there any of that in this game or?
Well, let's see. When they were huge favorites as 1 seeds last year, 2 years ago, they beat Stetson by 39, and then they beat Iona by 24 in the first round. But then I remember that game. That was Rick.
That was in Albany, New York, Matt.
Yeah, were you there?
In Albany, New York. That year I went to the UConn St. Mary's game. I went to the Saturday games, but I had a lot of buddies there, and I remember they were like, they did sort of make a point to like trash Iona in the second half of that game. Like they kind of ran it up.
I mean, it was about tied at halftime, and that game did go over pretty easily. But also Rick Pitino had an NBA starting backcourt, so that's going to make it pretty. And then also the Stetson game when they were the 1 seed, that one also flew over. 143 points in that one for a slow UConn team. They played 69 possessions. So yeah, I can see a world where if this is a blowout, it might be a run up the score situation.
Well, Rob Vino is a totals guru, and if he likes, he's having a great season, much of which is fueled by his ability to hit totals. And if he likes Furman UConn over 136.5, I'm certainly not going to argue with him. So that is parlay leg number 1. Do you know what your best bet is? If you do, I'll let you go to that game right now.
Sure. It's a bit of a big favorite spread, which was not the greatest thing yesterday, but some did hit. I was on Illinois. That one was really easy. I think Virginia destroys Wright State today. Virginia's huge, and Wright State is the type of team that is a very good team against fellow mid-majors, Horizon League teams in their general stratosphere, and just teams that cannot play up because they're very small and they don't shoot threes and they allow a ton of twos. That's just a really bad strategy because if you're playing rim versus rim against one of the tallest teams in the country, that's the second best shot blocking team in the entire sport, that's just like a matchup, a strength versus strength battle that you cannot play. Wright State has no one taller than 6'7" or heavier than 225 pounds in their rotation. They're a 95th percentile rim rate team, which means they get to the rim more than all but 5% of teams. Virginia's going to block 20 shots in this game. They should have gotten whooped by Cal when they played Cal, but Cal shot 25% from three-point line. And then they did play Butler. Butler shot only 33% from deep, but absolutely dominated them because they shot 23 more free throws in a game where both teams got to the rim a million times. I think that Virginia is going to get to the line a lot. They're going to get to the rim a lot. And Wright State's going to have to be a dominant three-point shooting team like most mid-major teams. The problem is Wright State is 294th in percentage of their points from three. They don't shoot threes. So I don't see a world in which they can compete with Virginia because it's not threes versus threes. It's twos versus twos with the second best shot blocking team in the entire country.
Yeah, I'm with you here. Good friend of the show, my buddy Aaron Kidd. He's oftentimes in the comments during the show on this show. Virginia season ticket holder. He's my first call anytime we talk Virginia basketball. I think he was at every single game in Charlottesville this year, and typically is. And he said this is a dream matchup for them, like an absolute dream matchup. Could not have asked for, like, he actually, you'd want to take it one step further. He said he thinks if they play Tennessee in the next round, that's a dream matchup for them as well. So he was very happy with the draw, and we compared numbers, and this is one that I'm thinking long and hard about. Personally, I struggled to lay like massive numbers in these early games for whatever reason. I don't know. I just gravitate toward dogs more, or it ends up being a pass for me. But I'm at like 21.5 here, I think, on my number. I'm going off memory, but it was over 20. And this is still sitting out there, 17.5. Like 18. I think we can use 18 or 17.5 for the parlay. I'm looking at the board right now. I see most of the 17.5s are juiced. There's 18 minus 110. Are you surprised this one hasn't budged from where it opened? I'm a little bit surprised.
Well, it also opened 2 points off KenPom, right? So
yeah,
at least it started there. And like, this happens sometimes. Like, my favorite bet the first round of last year for a very similar reason was Arizona against the spread against Akron. And that one was a really easy cover. And I was sitting there all week being like, why is this not moving like crazy? And then it was really easy. So I'm not really too worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. They should deny Wright State the rim, and it should just be, this Virginia team. I got to say, if it's not this year, and this is getting a little bit off topic, but the Ryan Odom with Griff Aldrich as his like business manager, like head, like NIL manager, whatever he's doing, running a Fortune 500 company is so genius. Like, Virginia is going to win one of these things probably within the next couple of years.
Put it this way. Virginia and NC State both started from complete scratch in a pretty average ACC with about the same budget to get there. Actually, I bet you NC State spent more on their roster. And Virginia just ended up being so much better than NC State. And I think Will Wade's still a very good coach. I just think that explains how awesome this Virginia program is going to be moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't disagree with my buddy Aaron. I think, because here's the thing, like, even if Miami of Ohio shocks the world today, if you will, does it, like, I think Virginia would take that, right? They'd be pretty thrilled with that. So either they're going to get Tennessee, who I'll definitely like Virginia probably in that game, or they're going to be a double-digit favorite. So yeah, I can see why the Virginia faithful were happy with the draw. And yeah, this feels like it could be a pretty big blowout. So I'm with you. That is one that was on my long list for today that I will be definitely, giving some thought for a potential early bet. I will take your big favorite, though, and raise you a bigger favorite for the parlay. I'm going to go Iowa State here in the parlay. I think they're going to absolutely trash Tennessee State in this game. It's up to 24.5. Most places, for the sake of the parlay, I'm just going to put 24, and I'll just add a little bit of juice. I'll do it twice. So we're going to go 17.5 in the parlay with Virginia. We're going to go 24 with Iowa State. I'll just attach minus 120 juice to both of those. Here's the thing, and I see you, Joe, in the chat. He says Tennessee State is pretty solid. Yeah, Tennessee State is very solid in the context of the Ohio Valley Conference, where, I was way high on Tennessee State this year in that league. I love Nolan Smith. I thought especially when I saw Tennessee Martin sort of emerge as the top team for a couple for probably over a month, I was like, man, Tennessee State is such a better team than Tennessee Martin. I love the way they play. I love how he kind of is like, I think I've heard him described as he sort of went against the analytics and he just put a bunch of ballers out there that just like get up and down and just play ball. And that's great in that league, but that's not going to work against Iowa State. And one thing I'll note, and you can comment on this as well, I feel like some of the Big 12 teams at the top are getting a little bit disrespected because they got lost in the shuffle of the Big 12 gauntlet. Meaning, like, we're going to sit here and talk about Arizona like they're just going to easily win this whole tournament. But yet we're not going to give Houston any love, Iowa State. I feel like even Texas Tech to an extent. And all of those teams are very dangerous. And I just had a conversation before I got on the show that I think Iowa State is a very dangerous team, far more so than I gave them credit for myself a couple weeks ago. And I think this is a 40-point win, 30 or 40-point win for Iowa State. So agree, disagree, Iowa State, Tennessee State this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State loves to run up the score against bad teams because they force so many turnovers, get so many offensive rebounds, and get to the rim so much. It makes it very easy to the point where they did play an OVC team this year. They did not cover against Eastern Illinois, 25-point win. They shot 17% from three. If they shoot 30% from three, they win that game by 40. And I think it's the same deal here. Tennessee State actually gained a lot of power ranking juice in their last 4 games of the year. They were at 261 6 games ago in KenPom, and now they're 187. So very quick math, that's 54 spots gained in their last 6 games of the year. So then I go to the 3-point line. How did they shoot? Well, in 3 of those games, 42%, 41%, 62%. And that's going to help. So I think you're probably getting an extra 3 to 4 points on the spread because Tennessee State just completely whooped their last 6 opponents. And again, OVC opponents. So I think that probably a little value here on the number.
Yeah. How do you gain that many points in KenPom playing 6 OVC opponents?
They played the better team. So they beat SIUE by 27. They beat Tennessee Martin back-to-back games by 25 and 13. And then they beat Moorhead by 36 because they shot, or 26 because they shot 62% from 3. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. And listen, I mean, they're a great story. They've had a great season. This is another one where I just think they drew a really, really bad first round matchup for the way that they play. It's just, and again, yeah, like Iowa State, and we can even, I guess we'll parlay it into talking about this game because the chat wants, they've been asking the whole show about Akron, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Houston are the 3 I'm referring to. I guess you could throw Kansas in the mix, but I still think Kansas gets enough love, like just that they don't deserve at times. So I'm going to leave them out. Iowa State, Houston, and Texas Tech, I think could be Final Four teams. And I think we just kind of collectively stopped putting them in the Final Four as of a couple weeks ago. And now, and I was guilty of that as well. And now I'm looking at the tournament. I'm looking at the bracket. I'm looking at what Houston did to Idaho last night and thinking like, are they any really worse than Arizona? They feel like almost on par with Arizona, yet we've got Arizona placed in the final. But when I say we, I mean just like a lot of people that come on and talk about these games on a daily basis.
Well, Arizona beat Iowa State twice. They beat Houston twice. They only lost to Texas Tech by 3, and JT Toppin played. So no, I do not think they're as good as Arizona.
Okay, no, that's why I brought it up, because there was a point in this season, go back to December and going into January, where I think a lot of people would have had some of those teams interchangeable: Houston, Arizona, Iowa State, maybe even Kansas. At that, there was a point in time where Kansas had a couple of back-to-back wins where they vaulted themselves back into the big-time discussion. And so, that's a really good point. Now, I'll like I said, I got off topic a little bit there. I'll bring it back into the context of getting one more game breakdown in for the show. Texas Tech sitting there at 7. It keeps getting pushed back to 7.5, going back to 7. Akron's a very interesting team because it's almost like they're due to win one of these games, and they've kind of like, there is a little bit of tournament experience. They go every year. Now they find themselves in a game where they're a single-digit dog. Seems like, I guess, winnable from that from that standpoint. But then I'm also like, Texas Tech, are we sleeping on them a little bit just because they don't have Toppin, because that line feels a little short?
Stylistically, this is the closest you're going to get to Wisconsin High Point in the sense that both teams shoot a lot of threes. And High Point won that game because down the stretch, they made all their threes and Wisconsin didn't. If that happens, Akron absolutely can win the game. The difference here, I think, is that Grant McCaslin is a way better coach than Greg Gard. I love Grant McCaslin. I think he's a top 5 coach in the country. I cannot envision him losing in the first round. It can be close, but because Akron is so small, Texas Tech can get away with being so small because Texas Tech is small. They don't have to play Luke Bamgoye big minutes because they don't have a big man to contend with. And at the end of the day, guards win March Madness games, and Texas Tech has Christian Anderson. And as much as Tabari Johnson is good, Christian Anderson is way better. And I don't think Akron can do enough defensively to slow down Christian Anderson. You look at those games that Texas Tech lost, TCU and Iowa State especially, are two teams that blow up every ball screen and get the ball out of Christian Anderson's hands. Akron cannot do that. So Anderson's going to get his shots here, and I just don't think that Akron's going to get enough stops to win this game.
Yeah, it's just I think that's a really good point in general. Just how many like TCU's a team all year that has come up on this show, and it's like those guards are just in your shorts defensively. They make life so difficult for teams that want to play through their guards. Like even made life very difficult for Ohio State yesterday. So I think that's probably I guess I lean toward Texas Tech covering this game. And it's likely that right, unless Akron just goes absolutely bonkers from 3, it's hard to believe that Texas Tech doesn't win by double digits. So I guess I'll sign off on a Texas Tech lean -7. It's still 7 some places.
Yeah, I think that's more likely than not what's going to happen. But again, a lot of 3-point variance in this game. Maybe if one team is up, if Akron's up at halftime, I would take Texas Tech. If Texas Tech is up 15-20 at halftime, I would consider taking Akron.
Yeah, can always bet these in play
just
as
so
well. And yeah, that's one where that makes a lot of sense. If Texas Tech falls behind a little bit early to the point where you can just get them in game to win the game, that's probably a very good in play bet.
And I mean, think about Akron, like the way they play. It showed out in their MAC final against Toledo. Yep. They were down 12 in the second half, and then they hit all their threes, and Toledo started missing. At the end of the day, there's a lot of up and down with Akron games because they play so fast, they shoot and allow so many threes.
Could even apply to the total too. I mean, if you get slow shooting out of the gate from both of those, there's probably a barrage coming at some point.
Also, and this is just anecdotal, Texas Tech's offense is always better in the first half. I don't know why, but they're always better in the first half. If there's 92 points in the first half, take the under in the second half.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Titan CT says, Matt, nice to see you again. Not sure what the show schedule is next week, but we may have Matt back. We'll see. I got to see what the show schedule is next week. I know this weekend, I believe we're doing Last Call, so I'll just be on the Last Call show with Kelly in Vegas. Monday, there's no games, so no show. So maybe we'll be back on Tuesday. I got to get the exact schedule, but we'd love to have Matt back. He always kills it when he shows up here. As we sign off, yes, we do have a 3-teamer today. Rob Vino, Furman, UConn over 36.5. Matt is going to go Virginia -17.5, and I've attached -120 juice. We're parlaying, so still going to be plus money. Doesn't matter. And then Iowa State is my play -24. I've attached -120 juice to that as well for the parlay. So obviously shop around. Those numbers are out there, like 17.5 for Virginia, -120 is actually what's being offered at a lot of places. Get yourself 24 for Iowa. That I think that moved a little bit off the opener. That is the 3-teamer that's going to get this parlay going. We are still we're still chasing about 14 parlay units on the year, which again, that's probably a -110, -120, -120. We'll probably be close to 6-1. We just got to rattle off a couple of these and we're right back in the mix. So enjoy the weekend, everyone. Hope you guys cash all your tickets. It is the second best day of the year. Yesterday was the best. Today is the second best. So have a great weekend, everyone. I'll see you on Last Call. Big shout out again for Matt for joining. Check him out on Basket Under Review and on his Twitter And have a great day, everyone. We'll see you guys tomorrow.